lesson 6-3, we're going to be creating our own proportions given word problems, and we will solve proportions by cross multiplying and dividing. So for number 1 here, Jessica was planning a trip to the Eastern Caribbean islands. Before going, she did some research and learned that the exchange rate is 3 Eastern Caribbean dollars equals $1 US. So how many Eastern Caribbean dollars would she get if she exchanged $5? So the key here is we need to keep things lined up correctly. So I'm going to write a ratio for this right here, and I'm going to say 3 to 1. So we get 3, and it's okay to write some notes here. So I'm going to say 3 ECD for Eastern Caribbean dollars. Okay, and then I'm just going to put $1. So that'd be like US, or you could put US down there. All right. Now, if we exchange $5, where would we put that? Would we put $5 on the bottom or $5 on the top? Well, I want to match it here, so I'm going to put $5 right there. So I'm looking for this X right there. So now we got our proportions set up. You always want to match corresponding parts. Okay, there's a lot of different ways you could set up a proportion. There's actually 4 different ways you could set up any given proportion. But the important part is keeping everything lined up. So my dollars are both on top, my Eastern Caribbean dollars are both on the bottom. Or excuse me, vice versa. Eastern Caribbean dollars are both on the top and the US dollars are on the bottom. So now let's cross multiply and divide. Well, 1 times X, that's nice and easy. That's just X. And 3 times 5 is $15. So now, but remember, this is 15 Eastern Caribbean dollars. Okay, and it's okay if you want to abbreviate there, but just make sure that we are aware that you are doing 15 of the Eastern Caribbean dollars, not 15 regular dollars. Alright, so let's try it again. The currency in the Eastern Caribbean islands is the Eastern Caribbean dollar. The exchange rate is approximately $1 for 3 Eastern Caribbean dollars. So now this problem is completely different. Okay, so we have 1 US dollar, so I'll put 1 US over 3 Eastern Caribbean dollars. At this rate, how many Eastern Caribbean dollars would you get if you exchange $4? So we're going to put 4 on the top this time, because we're exchanging 4 US dollars, and I'm going to put X down here because I want to know how many Eastern Caribbean dollars would we get. Alright, so cross multiply and divide, 1 times X, this is nice and easy again. So we just get X is equal to 12, and this would be Eastern Caribbean dollars. Alright, so if you exchanged 4 US dollars, you would get 12 Eastern Caribbean dollars in return. Alright, so 1 jar of sun-dried tomatoes costs $4. Alright, this is key here. 1 jar is $4. So let's set up a proportion. So 1 jar, and let's go $4. Alright, so now you don't necessarily need the label here with these proportions. I just like to put them so that way I can keep track of what goes where. Alright, so how many jars? We're looking for jars of sun-dried tomatoes can you buy for $8. So I'm going to put my $8 on the bottom, and that means that I'm going to have to put my variable on the top. Alright, now we'll cross multiply and divide, so I get 4x is equal to 8. We divide by 4 on both sides. We get x is equal to 2. Now 2 what? Now here's where we need to add our label. 2 jars of sun-dried tomatoes. So in yesterday's lesson, I was just giving you a lot of proportions, but now I'm giving you an actual situation, a problem, so that way you can determine what the proportion is and work to solve. So that's how you can set up a proportion and work to solve it. So if you buy 1 pineapple for $4, so we have 1 for $4, so let's set that up. 1 to 4. Then how many can you buy with $8? Well, I'm going to match my 8 here. See, this time I didn't write the label, and it's a little bit more confusing because I had to look back up at the original problem. Whereas if I would have wrote at least a dollar sign, then I would have known right away, okay, I have to put the dollars on the bottom, which means my variable is there. All right, let's cross multiply and divide. So I have 4x is equal to $8. Divide both sides by 4, and x is going to be 2 what? 2 pineapples. All right, so those were fairly simple proportions to solve, but just kind of getting you started here, how to set up a proportion. Okay, we put our pineapples on top, put our dollars on the bottom. Doesn't matter really where you put your items, it just matters that they do match up. All right, so Wilbur reduced the size of a painting to a width of 1 inch. What is the new height if it was originally 18 inches tall and 6 inches wide? All right, so we're talking about scaling something down, kind of like on a map or like a model airplane. We want to scale it down. So I'm just going to write 8 inches tall and 6 inches wide. That has to be equal to, okay, now look at this one. It says 1 inch, but is that tall or wide? Well, it says width right there. So I'm going to put 1 right here for with my width. And that means I'm looking for how tall it is. It says, what is the new height? Okay. So now we cross multiply and divide. So I go 6x is equal to 18. Divide both sides by the coefficient. X is equal to 3. Now we want to check our units. Okay, we have inches. 3 inches tall. All right. So that way we're letting you know that I do know that this is height. Okay, so 3 inches tall would be a good answer here. Okay, a frame is 20 inches wide and 15 inches tall. So let's go ahead and write our ratio. So 20 wide and 15 tall. All right, if it is reduced to a width of 4 inches, again, this is a width, so I'm going to put it on the top with my other width. And my height, how tall is it, is going to be my x. All right, let's go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to have 20x is equal to 60. Divide by the coefficient. Both sides, x is equal to 3. Okay, you can cross these zeros off. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 what? 3 inches tall again. Okay, and that brings us to our last example for today's lesson. Be sure, just the most important thing here is we need to match corresponding parts. Okay, I want to see this in everyone's notes the next day in class. I will be checking to make sure that you wrote this down. Okay, match corresponding parts. So you want to match apples to apples, width to width, height tall to height tall. Okay, what else do we match today? We matched pineapples to pineapples, dollars to dollars. We matched jars of sun-dried tomatoes with other jars and dollars to dollars. We also matched US dollars to Eastern Caribbean dollars. Okay, so you have to match everything up the way it's supposed to be matched.